Hi guys, and welcome back to Cooks by Carrie. If you're new here, I'm Carrie, and for today's Foodie Friday video, I'm sharing how to make these delicious mini ghost Pop-Tarts. The recipe is adapted from thelittleblogofvegan.com, and without further ado, let's get into the video. For today's recipe, you are going to need a double recipe of my pie dough. I will link the recipe in the description down below. You will also need confectioner sugar, strawberry jam, some milk, and some food coloring, as well as some vanilla. To start off this recipe, you want to preheat your oven to about 340 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, this is a weird temperature, mainly because I think this recipe was written for people with Celsius degree ovens, so it was 170 degrees Celsius, which is about 340 degrees Fahrenheit. And the second step is going to be to lay out your pie dough and to roll it out. Now, you may be wondering, Carrie, a little late on a Halloween recipe. I know. This is traditionally more of a Halloween thing because they're little ghosties. But hey, homemade Pop-Tarts are something that you can make for any occasion, for the holidays, for Thanksgiving, for really just anything, any type of celebration. Because what I'm going to show you is applied to, yes, a Halloween dessert, but it can be made into any type of Pop-Tart. You can make them traditional rectangles, you can make them just big circles, you can make them into stars, you can make them into really any shape possible. So anyway, you just want to roll the pie dough out until you have a nice thin layer. You don't want it too thin, but you want it pretty thin. I want to say maybe 1/8 of an inch or something, whatever you think, but you don't want it to be too thick because, it's just supposed to be a nice thin pastry, but not something that's so thin that it's going to easily break. Now, before I continue with this video, please subscribe, hit that thumbs up, comment down below, and share this video with a friend. Also, hit that notification bell so you get notified when I post a new video. I have a goal of 1,000 subscribers, and I'm about 1/3 of the way there, so if you could please help me out, that'd be greatly appreciated. Alrighty, let's get back to the video. Okay, so basically, I fast forward a little bit because some of the clips are kind of boring of me just watching roll out the dough, but I started to kind of cut them out, but as you can see, my dough was way too sticky. It was too sticky and it just wasn't working, so I had to go ahead and throw it back into, I put it in the freezer for about 15 minutes, and you only want to so my dough ball was pretty big since it's a double recipe, so I kind of cut it in half and just used half at a time and then froze it while I was still making it. I would say you want the dough to be pretty firm, so my pie dough recipe says to put in the fridge. Honestly, if you're doing a quick recipe where you really only have 30 minutes, honestly, put it in the freezer for 30 minutes. It'll get nice and firm, and it'll be very nice and workable. And the best case scenario, if it's a little bit too hard, then the best case scenario is just leave it on the counter. This is pretty annoying, as you saw, to just have to scrape it all away. But, life happens sometimes. I just want to show you that it's okay if something like this happens, because there's ways to work around it. Okay, and now was a time where I had already rolled it out. I'm not sure where the clips went of me rolling the dough out, but it was pretty much the same process. Just kind of rolled it out, cut the circles, and put them on my tray. So now it's time to fill them with jam. Now, I started by going in just with, a spoon and dropping some on, and I realized that the jam was kind of leaking out. Now, as this was a Halloween dessert, having a strawberry jam leak out, it's a little bit like blood or something like that, so it could be kind of cool, but you really want to go with a very small amount or not as much as you think you would need. If you're doing this for anything else, even if it's a bit of a bigger shape, you do kind of want to just use a little bit so that the edges don't really have that much jam around it, so it's less likely that the jam will leak out. But you just want to repeat this for all of your little tartlets. And also, something to mention is that, let's just say you have 24 little circles, you only want to put the filling on 12 because, you have to use the top one to seal it all off. So that's just something to know. After you fill it with the jam, you just place the topping on. You can see in some of the earlier clips, it is kind of hard to do when there's a lot of jam, but just place the top one on, and then I'm going to go in with a fork and seal the edges. Now, after doing those first 8, I did get kind of smart about it and decided to use a little bag. So I just stuck the jam in the little bag and then began filling. This made it so much easier. It was just a little Ziploc bag. I just put the smallest dab of jam. It did get a little hard because there were some real fruit pieces in it, but this was so much easier than using the spoons. If you have a plastic bag available to you, I highly recommend you use this method. Also, you don't have to fill them with jam. You could do Nutella. You could do some kind of nut butter. You could do lemon curd. You could really do whatever filling you want, just as long as it's going to be somewhat liquidy, so it's like kind of like, or a paste or something. As long as it's something like that, you could totally use it. And now for the last step before I threw it in the oven, I took this little pastry brush and then I brushed milk on top. This was just because it's going to help it get extra brown, and so it's a good step to do. Now you see that I was a little bit messy with it. I got some milk on the parchment. That's okay. The parchment's just going to crisp up a little bit, but that's okay because it's only a single use piece of parchment paper anyway. So anyway, just brush them all. If you don't have like a little pastry brush like this, you could try to use like a spatula or something and just get a little bit of liquid, or even a spoon, whatever works. You just want a really small amount of liquid on them. Also, this recipe was originally like, I adapted it from a vegan recipe, but this recipe that I made is not vegan. And now it's time to put these bad boys in the oven. They went in at 340 degrees and they baked for about 20 to 25 minutes. Now here's where I'm taking them out. Now look how crispy and brown they got on the top. They look perfect. They look a little messy, but that's okay. Now I would recommend, if you have smaller ones like this, start to check at 10 minutes, but I do believe mine took about 20. But start checking 10, then 15, then 20, just to make sure they don't burn. Because who wants to eat a burnt Pop-Tart? I can't think of anybody that would. And now it's time to make the icing. This is going to be a royal icing. Basically what that means is it's mostly confectioner sugar with a little bit of liquid. I poured in way too much vanilla at the beginning, but that's okay because I like my stuff extra vanilla-y. But this was about, I want to say it was 220 grams of this powdered sugar, and then about 3 tablespoons of milk, and then I did about maybe a tablespoon of vanilla extract. But going back to the consistency of this. So this is going to be very thick. It's not as thick as like the air quotes glue that is used for gingerbread houses, but it is going to be way thicker than a traditional frosting. The point of royal icing is that it's perfect for decorating cookies. And this is a tart, which is a similar surface to a cookie, or it's a Pop-Tart, let me rephrase. But it is a surface where we want to do some fine detailed, I mean, it's not super detailed, but a nice drawing. So this is going to be perfect for it. Now, as you can see, the icing was not a super white color, so I happen to have some white food coloring on hand, so I just added that to the frosting to make it extra white. If you don't have this on hand, I have heard that if you put the tiniest bit of purple, like the tiniest amount, it will make your icing white, like whiter than it is. Cannot confirm if that is true, but I have seen a bunch of videos that show that, so that's a little hack for you guys if you don't have white food coloring. Which, honestly, I don't know who would have white food coloring. I just had it in a set, so that's why I used it. But also, if you just don't want a super white icing, don't put it in. Definitely the vanilla is what gave it that, like, maybe a little bit more of a cream color, so maybe just put a little less vanilla, or, you know, just go with the color it is. Alrighty, so I let my little Pop-Tarts completely cool. I stuck them in the freezer for about 15 minutes and they got all nice and, you know, they were room temperature. So to draw the little ghost on the top, I kind of just made an outline, and also I put the icing in a little plastic bag because I didn't have any piping bags, so that's a tip for you guys. As long as it's like normal and doesn't have like 4 corners, that makes sense. If it just has 2, like a normal bag, then you can totally use it. So anyway, I just tried to make some unique shapes with it. So I just kind of did like, you know, a circled top, but then the bottom I tried to make it like a little wiggly, if that makes any sense, so that they could be different shapes. But anyway, you just want to do the outside and then fill the inside. Just make sure you're not putting too much icing because you don't want the shape to like leak over the edge or anything. And now it was time for the final step to add the little ghosty eyes. I just colored a little bit of the icing black, and then I did the tiniest little hole in the bag and the tiniest little dots, and the eyes still ended up being pretty big. But you know, that's okay. It's just supposed to be fun. So just be very careful with how you do the little eyes, just because, you know, it's very easy to get a lot of icing to come out. But this is the last step, and I was like so happy with them because, you know, do they look homemade? Yeah, but I feel like that kind of adds to the appeal, and they were such little cute Pop-Tarts. They're so tasty, and if you guys like this recipe, I feel like I'll have to try to make more of like a traditional Pop-Tart. and do it for like Christmas or like a holiday or a winter theme. So let me know if that's something that you'd want to see in the comments down below. And yeah, just repeat until all your little ghosties have eyes. And here was the final result. They're so cute. They have such little glossy decorations on the top. You know, the eyes are a little big, but that kind of adds to it. And even that jam that's coming out of it, it just looks so ooey gooey and delicious. These are crunchy on the outside, soft and delicious on the inside. Alrighty guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't already, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified when I post a new video. And follow me on Instagram at Cooks by Carrie. I post lots of fun photos of the food I cook and other updates and such. If you have any suggestions for any future videos, please leave it on the comments down below. And I'll see you next Friday. Bye guys.